Hello future tech leaders, I'm Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. At CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds. Join us as we dive into SailPoint, an identity governance technology, and discover how it helps businesses manage security and compliance.
I think the application onboarding is done, so we can start the new chapter called Entitlement and Roles. It's all related to access permission, access management. I think one item is pending from my end, that application onboarding questionnarization. Let's say you got a requirement to onboard an application, but what kind of technical question we should ask? We should gather the required data from application team. So let's talk about that quickly. I hope you guys got an overall idea what kind of question we should ask. Can any one of you let us know? So what kind of technical question or else what other data will be required from application team? What kind of data? Any. We need to check the connector detail from the application team. We need to get what kind of file they want to onboard. Is it a delimited file or a database file? Exactly. So technically, we should ask them about the source data. So where is all of your data has been stored, whether it's been database or any cloud-based? Are you storing all of your data in the spreadsheet? And always remember, spreadsheet format should be CSV only because SailPoint doesn't support other type of Excel. So it support only a SCOME separated value extension. Any other question? Is there any data to be merged? Any multi-value data? On high level, we should ask. But so let's start from scratch. First, you should ask what is the application name? Who will be the application owner? Who will be the IT custodian? Since then, we are going to onboard an application. We may have a lot of IT custodians for the application. So, a different type of application. Who will provide the application support? Who will provide IT support? We should ask them. Maybe they don't have IT custodian. So in one of the projects, they have a term called IT custodian. So I don't have a clear idea. So technically application owner or application support person. We should ask them because when we are going to onboard an application, we may face a lot of difficulties. The password didn't work. Our SailPoint is not able to communicate with the target source. They provide the incorrect details of the target source. It may be anything. So definitely we should ask. We should be prepared. Whom should we reach? So try to get application owner, IT, custodian, or whoever is going to provide support for this application. And apart from that, you can ask who will be the application owner, application name. And apart from that, you can ask. So please provide a brief description of the application and the type of user using this application. Got it. So contractor may be using this application. Temporary people may be using this application. Employees, IT people, HR people, finance people. And once you get a brief description, you have to update the same in the application description tab. We have a tab while onboarding an application. You have to update over there. Apart from that, but when we are onboarding, we didn't give anything. No, we didn't give means we are not going to decide. We are not going to feed any data on our own. Whatever data, we are going to get it from application team. The same data we have to feed at the place. Now, like where to give? I'm asking, like when we are onboarding the application, we didn't know where we are. Like, is there any separate place we need to add? Someone is asking about where to feed. I see that now. Description, we have a text box. So you have to provide the description. So what is the application type based on the source data? You can decide. So application name, application owner. You can ask whether this is an authoritative application or not. Most of the time, we won't ask. Since if it is an initialized project, definitely we should ask. So once the project has been established, no need to ask because we are not going to have multiple authoritative applications. So apart from that, we can ask, are there any technical interfaces like APIs and all? So if there is no technical interfaces, so that we can ask how to extract in the generic file format. So anyhow, it comes under aggregation. The moment you choose the connector, the aggregation will be decided automatically. No worries. So apart from that, the very important question, which attribute or what attribute is currently you guys are having, which should be unique so that we can identify each account. Example, username could be one of the unique attributed global user ID, or maybe when it comes to Active Directory application, it will be a distinguished name. Once you get the unique attribute value, so we have to set this identity attribute value. The unique attribute value means this one. Let me highlight. So I'm talking about this identity attribute. Guys, it depends where you are going to work. If it is a small application which are going to onboard this identity attribute, it's enough to correlate. If you are going to onboard an application where that source data is, a larger number of users are using that application. In that scenario, definitely this correlation tab and these rules will be helpful. Can you explain about that instance attribute? You talked about display attribute. What is that instance attribute? It's been a while. I don't remember exactly. We won't use this instance attribute. So I don't remember. So apart from that, this one is very important and you can ask them. So which attribute is going to correlate? Unique attribute, correlation attribute. You can ask them if they want to declare any attribute for entitlements kind of thing, which means I'm referring this page. The moment we are going to discover any attribute. Let me open the existing application. Why we are paying more attention on application onboarding? Because I would say in SailPoint you have 4 or 5 categories. 4 or 5. So one will be application onboarding to certification, which means governance and compliance. 3 that life cycle events called joiner, mover, liver, rear, all kind of events. 4th, automated provisioning, buttered provisioning. These are the major areas where you have to learn a lot. Because most of the questions will come from these chapters only in interviews. So here you can detect all the attributes from the target application. That's very simple. But you have to ask them which attribute is going to act as a correlation attribute, which attribute is going to act as an entitlement attribute. So, based on their requirement, we have to choose this. If they want us to display this attribute as a display attribute, we have to check this. Sometimes they won't provide. In that scenario, we have to ask them. That's it. And apart from that, already I told how many user accounts this application contains, how many people are, what different type of users are using this application. Along with that, you should ask them what different type of account exists in the application or what different type of account exists in the target system. Maybe so far we talked about only user accounts. So the application may contain system account. How to identify that disabled user once that employee, once the user is not using that application. So those accounts will consider as let's say a disabled user. The account is disabled state. How to identify? That's very important. When it comes to system accounts, it may be service account, it may be chat mailbox account, whatever it may be. So how to identify that? We should ask them. Apart from that, who is going to take care of the password change, password reset? Do you want us to implement password policy? And we can ask them what is the current password process they are following. How could it be improved? These kind of questions we can ask because we have to defend the password policy. That's the major goal. Apart from that, we should ask them about the provisioning. So what is the question? So usually the password policy, like in our organization, we used to log in with our SO. Like whatever Windows password we have, we use that to log into the applications what we have access. So is that the one you're talking about? Maybe some organization have separate password policy for the application login. I'm talking about the separate password policy. Let's say the application itself is saying it's a main application. It's already tied up with the sorry. This is our application. It's already tied up with the main application. So we can follow the SSO model in that scenario. Definitely we can implement SSO for this application. Whatever application. We can do that. And password policy. I have already demonstrated. So the user has to follow when go ahead. I got. Let's talk about provisioning. Because provisioning, it's very important. I have a general question in that case. Can I ask now? Go ahead. So in our organization, we are using SailPoint and we are prompted to change the password once in 90 days. And when we are changing the password, it will change into the Windows. Password will be changed using SailPoint. So how that will be implemented? How the password will go to AD if you're changing? Are you sure? No, that the AD configuration is entirely different. As you said, the Windows will ask to reset once in 90 days. So are you in that scenario? Are you going to change your password on SailPoint application or Active Directory? We used to change in the SailPoint. Because since AD is already integrated with SailPoint, so that request will go through SailPoint to Active Directory. And it depends on your project whether they have directly integrated with Active Directory or SailPoint. I'm not sure. We have to look into that architecture. We have two options like either we can change from the Windows logging to Windows, change the password, or else we can change it from SailPoint. It depends on the project. So let's get back to the provisioning. So when it comes to provisioning, you should be very clear. You can ask them what is the current provisioning process to set up user accounts on the application. What is the current process they are following when it comes to deprovisioning? Maybe they can. They have some plans to improve the provisioning. They may ask us to automate this provisioning. It depends. Some connectors support provisioning automatically. As we already discussed, some connector that application type won't support provisioning. In that scenario, if the application team want us to enable the automated provisioning, if end user is going to submit access request, the provision will be granted. Access will be granted automatically. That's their ideal goal. So in that scenario, we should make a note. We should inform the developers to build the provisioning plan provisioning rule so that the provisioning will happen automatically. Are we clear so far? What kind of question we should ask? Anyone has any questions so far? Rakesh. So, along with that, we should ask who will perform. Let's say we have implemented automated provisioning. If it ends with failure, so whom should we reach? Because that manual process has to be followed. Some legacy process to grant the access. In that scenario, whom should we reach? Who will perform this user provisioning manually? So we should be ready. We should gather this information too. And the final one, we should talk about the access review, whether it's a critical application or not, because the certification execution frequency will be depends on the criticality of the application. So we should talk about the certification process as well. So we can ask them how you guys are doing the currently, how you guys are reviewing the user access for this application today. From where are you going to gain the application data? Are you going to review manually or do you have any other third-party application, third-party tools to do that? You can ask them these kind of questions. So that's all about. I mean, these kind of questions we can ask, guys, and it depends on your project as well. Once again, they may have some additional attributes. So far till here we have these attributes. That's fine. Correct. So let's say here we are going to add one more attribute called ServiceNow assignment bin. We are going to add one more attribute called IT custodian. There we have to provide some data. We can add one more attributed, whether this application is going to be excluded from all kind of events like joiner, mover, reliever. This access cannot be granted automatically. That's what it means. So the project may have some specific attributes for each and every application. So it depends. So if you want to include those questions as well, we should gather the information from them to feed the data. So that's it, guys. If suppose they want to add the custodian, where we will add. So here we have application owner dropdown. Is there correct? So in that scenario, we have to introduce one more attribute here. You may call it as extended attribute. Extended. So most of the time the activity will be done by developers, sometimes support engineer as well. So it will be there. They will be changing in this same point. Why is it? Not UI technically, but we have to add. I'll teach you guys, no worries. In a couple of sessions, I'm going to talk about that. Because it depends on the project. Once again, sorry to say this again and again. Some projects they are following. If any requirements is going to take more than 100 hours, those activity will be done by developers. If any activity on any requirement is less than 100 hours, those development activity will be taken care by support engineer. You got it what I'm saying? So as an employee, you should know all kind of changes configuration. It is possible that support people also may get some small kind of development. Let's take an example at Delete and EY. I have seen a lot of projects where they have this module. If it is more than 100 hours, definitely developer will pitch in and they have a development team. If it is less than 100 hours, support engineer will take care. Administration people, admin people. If they are going to introduce simple attributes, then definitely support engineer will take care. That attribute is going to be involved in the different type of identity attributes, then definitely we should reach developers. We'll talk about that later briefly. No worries. That's it, guys. So today we can start the new chapter. Entitlement to perform action. Access privilege for an application. Access privilege. I would say access permission. Instead of privilege, we can say access permission. Let's say you need access to Active Directory application. So what will you do? You are going to submit a ticket. You will clearly mention, I need access for the application. And you have to specifically mention whether you are looking for read access, which means you can read the data. You cannot make any modification. You cannot make any changes. But then you are looking for read and write access, which means you can validate and you can make some changes over there, over in the application, like read and write access. Maybe you're looking for administration access. Maybe you're looking for user access. To provide to fulfill these kind of requirements, application team already created some different kind of access permission from there. So now we are going to aggregate those access permission into SailPoint so that any end user can request those access function. So as I said, that access permission is called entitled. Technically, entitlement is nothing. It's authorization to the target application. We are going to allow the end user to access the target application with the help of these end data. So once again, I'm saying that entitlement, most of the time we are going to just aggregate as a SailPoint. We are not going to create. In some projects, we have to create as well. Are we clear? What is entitlement? So read access. Read and write access. Is authorization an application? No. So first of all, let's learn how to aggregate this data. And second, I will show you how to add this entitlement panel. So now we have on board at this HR application. Can you open the application? And what happens is whether you have aggregated accounts or not. And can you log in as one end user? One more. Any identity name. Now on, and your identity name is one name. You got your credential and you are going to access. Can you change your password and try to log in as an end user? So you got to imagine you got a credential via email with the link also. Now you can log out and log in. Now you are going to log in as end user when you are going to log in as an administrator, which means we are going to log in with the admin credential. Then you're going to access everything, all the tabs, because you have full permission to access the application. But now you're going to log in as an end user. So you will get some, I would say, basic or minimal access. You have no correct. Now you are going to submit access request. You're looking for a track application maybe. So what will you do? We used to do that. I think we didn't implement this LCMEM feature yet. So most of the guys won't be able to access this Management Access tab. Access request. No, once you submit an access request, you can track from here. But if you want to submit access request, click on Home page. You can use this Management Access quickly. The fourth one. Click that. So you are an end user, so you cannot submit access request for other people. You can submit access request only for yourself. Now you are looking for track application access. If you know the entitlement or role name directly, maybe your manager or your subordinate, your team member can assist you to submit access. Or maybe in some project I have seen they will provide on document where all the entitlement and role name will be there. You have to submit access request manually via SailPoint and service. Now click on filter. Select application name called track. Maybe you have on board at 3 applications. You can choose all 3 together. No, not from here. Click on filter. Scroll down. So if you are, click on entitlement application. Now you are planning to submit. No results found. Can you click on role source application? The first one. Nothing appears. Track DB select HR. Click apply. Nothing is there. So no entitlement added for this track application. So no entitlement and no roles are available for this application in your system. Now log out and log in as SP admin. So we will learn how to aggregate this. So now go to application. So we can access all the entitlement under entitlement catalog. Once we aggregate it or once we create it, we can access the entitlement from here. As of now, nothing is there. We have to ask application team from where we can aggregate these access permissions. In a similar way, how we aggregated the user data. So can you go to application? The application which you onboard. Not your application. Application. Definition. Open track application. Can you open my SQL workbench as well? So that's our source data for this application. Can you expand the track? Here we have 2 tables called one user, another one capability. All user information will be stored under user table. All group information will be stored under capabilities. Correct. Can you search? Let me take control on permanent. Thank you. So if I'm going to expand this table here, I could see a lot of capabilities like import, super, approve, reject something. And whoever has access to those capabilities, it's appearing under capabilities table. Correct. Now we have to aggregate this capability into SailPoint so that whoever is looking for this application access, they can request. So now you guys understood all the groups, or you may call it as entitlement is available under this capability table. Now you can go to the track application and you guys has to suggest, are we going to create one more application to aggregate this entitlement? What are we going to do? So we have implied this ID, this I is common between these two tables, like users have IDs. Maybe we can match these IDs and get the capabilities. No, forget about this ID. So this application has ID. Some application won't have ID, they will have the entitlement name directly. Just we have to aggregate. So forward about user in this scenario. Our ultimate goal is we have to aggregate this entitlement into SailPoint so that anyone who is looking for this application access, they can request. So how to aggregate this data into SailPoint? So again for users, we have on board with one application called track. You guys remember how? Now are we going to create another application to aggregate these entitlement, or what are we going to do? That's my question. You got it guys, what I'm asking? So my question, are we going to onboard one more application called track to aggregate these entitlement? No, usually we won't do that. So instead of what? Instead of creating new application, what can we do here? We have an object that called a point. So this is the default one. Here we are going to add another object that called group. You mean name it as entitlement. You can name it as capability. It's up to the required. So in this object type called group, you have to feed all the required information. Once again, you have to declare the schema and you have to create a new task to aggregate the groups to create the entitlements. Can you feed the? And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.